double majoring in journalism and law. I am the vice president and co-founder of the UAC podcast. You can make any podcast under our club. I am honored to serve as your moderator today as we explore how students can find their voice, lead with purpose, and create opportunities rooted in justice and inclusion. Before we begin, I would love to talk about the UAC podcast purpose, mission, and its founders. We chose this topic because we are passionate about student empowerment in all aspects, and so today's conversation will inspire you to recognize your own power to lead with integrity, act with empathy, and create a positive, lasting impact at the University of Arizona and beyond. Our panelists are great with inspirational and great experiences that when you hear what they have to share, you will be blown with their impact. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists, Dr. Boyles and Dr. Anderson and Professor Jill for coordinating with our team to create this amazing program together.
Hello everyone, my name is Felicity, I'm the Secretary of the UAC podcast, majoring in cyber operation, intelligence, and political science. I'm particularly interested in the integration of philosophy, policy, and technology. I'm really excited about today's topic about empowering students, justice, leadership, and opportunities. As of today, we're having this panel. We would like to welcome all of you to ask questions at the very end. We'll give opportunities to 5 students to ask questions once we end. Thank you.
To start our discussion, we would like to hear from each one of you with this question. Every journey becomes with a moment of inspiration. When did you first discover that you wanted to pursue the field you're in today, and who helped you empower, motivate, and inspire you along the way to become the leader you are now?
Thank you so much. As you heard in the introduction, I have a sad story. My son died when he was nearly 3, and it was in that incredible grief that I was inspired to do the work that I'm doing today. And really, it started in hospital. My son died of a virus, and it was really unexpected and sudden. And even though we had the worst possible outcome leaving that hospital, we were so surrounded by care and kindness in that hospital that I honestly don't know how I would have done this journey had we not started with that kind of care from the very beginning. Each person that interacted with us, doctors, nurses, technicians, culinary staff, every interaction we had was a communication of care to us that let us know that we could survive this thing. And at the time, I was faculty at the university. This was 23 years ago, and I didn't know if I could come back to work. I didn't know how I would teach my classes, how I would interact with students. I was grieving so hard. But when I came back to work, I was walking on this campus, and I was just very keyed into kindness around campus, and there was a lot of it. And somebody would hold open a door for me, and I found myself wanting to, say to them, I know you think you're just holding open a door. I know you think it's no big deal, but here's my story. And I didn't do that because I didn't want to frighten any students. But the point is that there were person after person after person who inspired this in me. Regular folks, strangers, people who just saw me, another human, and answered a need, pulled open a door, smiled, said hello. People that knew I was grieving, supported in so many different ways. So it's from the power and the incredible need I had for those kind of communications of care during this time that I felt like I couldn't survive, that I started understanding kindness in a really different way, and that's led to the work I do today. Thanks.
So my background and my profession has sort of been community service, public service, and I first got exposed to it and developed my passion for it while I was still a student here at the U of A. One day I decided to walk into a campaign office and decided to volunteer. and I was an underclassman at the time, and someone who was there to kind of guide me in was an upperclassman, someone who's still a very good friend of mine to this day. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. I found inspiration in some of the professors that I had, and some of the students that I had at the time, and that continues to this day, because a profession like that, it has to constantly be fed. And there's a continual cycle of inspiration for me in the people that shared this journey with me. Currently at the health department, previously I worked at the city of Tucson. I had a lot of people who shared the same passion, and during either tough times or good times, we were able to have that shared both vision and experience that really kept me going. So I would say having inspiration is not just a moment in time or a flash in the pan. It's a continual thing that you have to continue to look for.
Yeah, my experience is similar in that there wasn't a particular moment or one person, but it was an accumulation of small inspirations sort of throughout my life, starting when I was very young. My dad was an engineer, and we were close, and he just, started doing math with me when I was little, and I liked it. And by the time I got to school, at that time, there were actually kind of pushes in the opposite direction in terms of girls and math and engineering and science, but it was kind of too late. My dad had already sparked the bug with me, and so those things didn't affect me because it was already sort of instilled and inspired. And then along the way, there were teachers and professors, both in engineering, science, and math, but then also in leadership. I learned there was an associate dean in the dean of students office who really was a mentor. I learned so much leadership from them while I was in college, and I still, today, so much of that is relevant.
Good morning. Apologies for being late. My name is Nicole. I serve as a student board president here at the U of A, and I just want to say thank you for giving me a chance to be part of this panel. So being a first generation student, my parents, it was really hard to talk to them about college and what I wanted to do in the future. And I feel like for me, my grandparents' struggle really helped me understand what leadership looked like, helping others. I used to be a caretaker for my grandparents, and so that's when it really clicked for me that I wanted to help others. And so since I was little, I've always loved volunteering, and I didn't always know what I wanted to do. I first originally wanted to do business, so I kind of learned very early on that was not going to happen for me. But then I interned in Congressman Bella's office, my uncle, and it really changed everything for me. Working with veterans, just seeing all the work that happens behind closed doors, and politics now, it's really hard to see the struggles that families go through. And so when I decided to run for student board president, I was a sophomore. I am the second president to ever serve in the history of two-term and first woman. That is really rare. And for me, it just clicked seeing students and relating to them through the first generation struggles. Being from a low-income family, south side of Tucson, and so for me, my grandparents have always been my biggest inspiration, and just seeing all the struggles they went through in Mexico, just giving my parents the life that they had. And so for me, my sister was always informed that we be that inspiration for our siblings and others. And so for me, my grandparents have inspired me to be in the role I am in today and to support students. And I enjoy that.
Thank you so much for coming on and not only inspiring me, but inspiring everyone in this room and everyone in the internet. So for Dr. Jeanette, your life's work has shown that kindness can be a powerful response to pain and injustice. How can students use kindness as a daily act of leadership, especially in moments when campus or the world feels so divided?
I love that question. I think the really most important place to start is understanding that kindness is not the same as niceness. Does everybody get that? That those things are different. Niceness is really, about making everybody feel comfortable and making things seem okay. But kindness is really a much deeper vein and asks more of us. So kindness is really pro-social. We call it pro-social. It means that we look at each other and we say, hey, you're another human. We're humans in this together. What do we need to do in order to create the conditions so that all of us have the best opportunity, there's fairness, there's support, all of the things we need to do our work in the world, our living in the world as best we can. So for leaders, I think our job as leaders is to create the conditions for people to be able to do their best. And that means creating a place, a space, the conditions for people to be able to let down their vigilance, their stress, and be able to feel connected to something, feel belonging, feel part of something in order to be able to do their work. So as a very social species, humans are a very social species, and that doesn't mean social like, going out and partying all the time social, but rather that we need each other. We are social creatures that depend on each other, very interdependent people. At the same time, when we enter a place or a space, we need to sort of judge whether we're okay in that space. I always ask people to put their fingers up on their head like little antenna, because when we go into a place, we're judging, am I okay in this place? Is this a safe place for me? Am I going to be accepted here? So as a leader, and we can all be leaders in this sense, how do we communicate to each other proactively that folks are welcome, that folks are okay? That's why friendly behavior is so important. People think friendly behavior, whatever, maybe that's not that important. But friendly behavior is kind of our first evidence, the first communication that somebody sees us, that somebody is welcoming us, that we're okay. So it starts with hello, or sit here, or come over and have lunch with us. And then other kind of behaviors in an organization would look like, how do you have a hard conversation? How do you solve problems together? How do you make sure policies are fair? How do you make sure that all of us have equal opportunity to do our best work? So I think all of that requires a leader to have two things that may seem contradictory. And those things are confidence and humility at the same time. The humility to know that we are always going to need to be listening to each other, learning from each other, learning a lot, but at the same time have the confidence to know that as a leader you can do that and that you can model that learning and making a mistake and apologizing, and these things are okay. And it's in that place of confident humility that we can really work together to create conditions where we're treated in a way that makes us know that we're okay, that we're safe, that we're comfortable, and therefore do all the work that we do in the world so much better.
Wow, that was so great. You really me. Yeah. So many young people want to change the world, but feel so overwhelmed by its challenges. What practices of empathy or self-compassion have helped you stay hopeful and continue making a difference?
Self-kindness is a vital part of kindness in general. We have to remember that we are part of the equation in kindness, right? So if we're going to be a leader and helping create these conditions and connecting with folks we work with in kindness, we also have to treat ourselves with that same care. What that looks like will be different in different situations. Being a leader requires a lot of social energy, so it might be a self-kindness to get some rest, right? To make sure that you have a place where you can recharge. But also really keying into, and this is a big one for many of us, what is the talk that's going on in your head? Are you being too self-critical? Are you being harder on yourself than you would be on your friend? It's always a good question to ask, what would I say to my friend if they were dealing with this? Because sometimes we find that, especially for leaders and maybe perfectionists, that the talk in our head can be a little bit negative, if not even mean. So catching yourself with your self-talk and giving yourself a break. You're a human, you're doing your best, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend, make sure you get good rest so that you're recharged for doing all this important kindness work in the world. Thanks.
Being kind Being kind is one of the most important things, not only to other people, but to yourself. Mental health is so important. So I agree with everything you have said. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Matthew, students often see justice as something achieved through big movements, but you build impact through steady and local work. How can students find and lead meaningful opportunities for justice right here in Tucson?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. I would point to something we're doing with today at my day job. We're dealing with shortages in the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children Supplemental Nutrition Program. I mean, to get that's a federal program that's been around since the 70s, and to get that program approved by Congress, signed by the president, took a lot of time and effort at that time. But it has to be maintained. Social justice movements, they might have an achievement, a goal like legislation or something like that, but then it has to be seen through. It has to continue to be nurtured. So because of that, I think there's opportunities to be engaged in any way. I think Tucson, in my experience, is an excellent place to be either politically engaged, civically engaged. Organizations like yours and Denzel's, there are so many different groups of people who are advocating for each other's behalf. Another community member, a group of community members, that kind of thing. But I would say, to your question, is that it's oftentimes there are high water marks or in points of note within a movement, but that might be step one or step two or whatever the case may be. It will continue to move forward, either setting new goals or making sure what has been achieved continues to be available to people who need it.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there a specific goal students should be reaching?
Well, I would say whatever's important to you. That's the most important thing. It has to matter here first before it can matter anywhere else. So whatever you're passionate about is going to be the key. And I would say, and that's okay if that might not be immediately evident. For me, it took a little while to understand fully, truly what I was most passionate about to work on behalf of the community for. So that's okay. I would just, I would just say, try to get as many different types of experiences as you can with different folks, different situations, that kind of thing, so that way you're able to have the experiences you need to be able to find out what is the most valuable thing to you, and then from there, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's so important. Finding what you're passionate about and then just that the community is most fulfilling. So, Dr. Jenna, your career bridges science, leadership, and innovation. How can students use creativity and research as tools for empowerment, not only to advocate knowledge, but to serve community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think your opportunity for impact and pursuing justice and pursuing positive outcomes can happen in almost any space that you're in. So you don't even necessarily have to seek out a movement. Think about what your field is, what you're working in, and lead with a human-centered, think about the human beings that are impacted by whether it's business, politics, engineering, languages, it doesn't matter, there's humans involved there, no matter what. So let me give engineering as an example, right? I'm a bioengineer. You think about very science-based work, but really it comes down to the whole goal is improving the quality of life for individuals and for people and for communities. And so really good engineering design often starts with empathy. And it starts with getting to know and understanding the people. And so there's opportunities for justice and impact there. I'll give an example. When I first got involved in research for epilepsy, I didn't yet understand. This was a community that I learned so much from because parents, this affects clinicians, parents, teachers, children, young people. Whole communities are affected by this disorder. And think about how there's a politics intersection here. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's have traditionally been much more highly funded. Many people have epilepsy in the country, but it's mostly young people. And the lobbyists and advocates have Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are things that affect older people that have more power in the political area, right? So it's been, relative to the number of people, much more highly funded. And until you get into and really talking to the people whose lives are affected by this, you don't understand necessarily your engineering decisions are going to be different just by getting to know and leading with empathy. And so that would be my advice. It can be in anything that you're working on. Really connect and put the human beings in that work first.
I agree with you. I think putting your heart into something that you're really passionate about is one of the most important things I think students and also adults should do in your career so they can keep empowering, keep inspiring people, and keep working on what's right. Thank you so much. Adriana, you've made history as the first woman and second student to ever serve 2 terms as ASUA president. What have you learned about courage and resilience, and how can students overcome self-doubt to step into leadership roles themselves?
So, never did I think I was going to become student body president at University of Arizona. That was never on my, to-do list when I had applied here. At first, I didn't even want to go to the U of A because I really thought to get a college experience, I needed to leave home, and I'm so glad I stayed and have gotten this opportunity. I will be honest, it's been a very difficult 2 terms, facing a lot of things that I think as a world we're facing, but higher ed right now is absolutely going through some big changes. And so the first president was Tom Bruce. He actually works for Higher Styles now. He was our first 2-time president, and so he's definitely been an inspiration to me, and just kind of going into a second term, because you're really learning the ropes, and I think as a one-time kind of president, you get the job, and we learn about it, and it hits December, and we really get the role, and we understand it. When I came in, I was sworn in May 1st, and I worked that whole summer just getting to know all the leadership, admin, so that when students got back to campus, I was ready to work, and meeting with student groups that have met with over 2,000 plus students into my first term, going to groups and stuff, and making time for students, because I think really hearing the struggles and trying to understand what students are going through, it helped me, because I love helping people, and that's inspired me to keep going throughout the doubts and hard times. I will say, being in college, I think there's a lot of changes in that already in itself, and trying to figure out what you want to do in life, and growing. And so for me, I've definitely felt the doubts and what's going to happen if I fail on this decision, knowing every decision holds a lot, and everybody tells me, Johnny, you care too much, and I'm like, I sure do. And I think that's what's made me the leader I am, is that I really care, and people do see that. So I would say, making history this last coming weeks, I've had so many freshmen and sophomores telling me, I want to run for president, what do I do? I want to do what you just did. And so seeing how many students want to run for president, for our VP positions, and just get involved is inspiring. I'm a 14 woman out of 100 some. So I think just seeing how many more women too are also looking into these leadership roles, and I think, sometimes it's been harder to find those roles, and so I think just seeing how many students are inspired, one has been a big thing that has helped me, and I feel like I was just seeing that there are students that are interested, and that means that we're doing something right. I would say as a university, like I mentioned, just higher ed in general, it's out there a lot, but but I think it's honestly helped us come together. I mean, just seeing this last tragedy on Thursday night, I knew some of the students and had just met with them, but just seeing how many students come together through crisis, through tragedies, it really changes everything. And when I see students rallying and stuff, like, it makes me excited that there's people that care about what's happening in the world. And so I think, there's been nights I've been in my office up, staring at the wall, like, am I doing enough? Did we do enough? Did we make the right decision? And so I think as leaders we carry that, and I think sometimes, a lot of people don't see the back end of it. But I definitely would say to anybody here feeling like they're struggling or seeing the struggles that they go through on the side, I'm a very quick person on, mental health and stuff, so when I see students struggling, I'm like, well, what are we doing to make sure professors are supporting them as a university, talking about things that we haven't been open about, bringing awareness to. So I definitely think for anybody in this room struggling, just know that your voice is being heard and that we do see you, because I think that is an important piece, is that sometimes just feeling seen and heard goes a long way to making decisions. And as a university, I think we have started to take way better steps in seeing what students need first, and meeting our provost and all of you. I think it's been inspiring to see that, and so keep going. College is not easy. You all are showing up every day. Just showing up to class today is something to be proud of, and I think a lot of people don't tell you that, but the little things of just turning in that assignment or hanging out with friends, like, those are things that you're doing for yourself and to influence others. So keep doing that, and never doubt that you are going the wrong way. If the door closes, it wasn't meant to be, and so I truly believe in that, and that every direction and every decision leads to something better.
I know being a leader is not a leader path at all. There's hardship and you lose motivation. So is there ever an advice you have gotten either from a mentor or a movie that really motivates you and keeps you working hard?
I definitely think as a leader, you definitely lose motivation. I will say, going into second term, there's been a lot more hardships that I never thought I would have had to go through, and I went through a lot of personal stuff in spring as well. I was very open about those struggles, and so I think motivation is hard. I think everybody is feeling that draining feeling sometimes, and so being a leader, you hold so much on your shoulders, and everybody expects so much out of you. Disney movies, let me just say, give the greatest advice about being a great leader and what it takes to really care for people. I would say for me, TikTok surprisingly gives great advice if you ever need that for leadership, and just listening to those shorter podcasts, videos and stuff really helps. So I definitely would say movies, just hearing quotes and how people, help each other really motivates me. But I definitely think from mentors and stuff that I've had here on campus and I've been so lucky to be connected with, I definitely think them always telling me about the big heart I have really helps motivate me. And just, I feel like when going into politics, especially because I want to run for office, you don't want a politician that's just out there for the face. You want a true leader that shows up, that gets you, that relates to the issues going on. And so I feel like for me, when people send me paragraphs and I get messages from students like, you just helped me through this, you changed my life, like, those little things mean a lot. So for me, that keeps me going. I keep all the students' letters that they've sent me in notes, and so that's definitely something that keeps me going.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that. That's a lot motivating for our students who want to run for offices. That's cool. Want to see changes that we want to implement at school. That's pretty cool. And so, Dr. Jane, as a university leader, you have helped shape programs that open doors for students. What opportunities at the University of Arizona should students take advantage of to grow as leaders who can combine justice, innovation, and purpose of their life?
Yeah. So my advice here is not so much about any one particular opportunity. There are so many, and there's so many ways to get to them. And my advice is actually really simple, and it's about being willing to talk to people, being willing to just ask the question. You don't need to know a lot. You just need to sort of think about what you like. When you run into people, whether it's your professors, whether it's your advisor, whether it's your residence hall assistant, being willing to just ask a simple question. I often will share an example. In my research, a first-year student once came up to me, and he wasn't even in my class, he was just sort of around, and an acquaintance, and he came up and said, "Hey, Dr. Rickus, do you have any cool research going on?" You know, it just as simple as that. And I said, "How do you feel about space biology?" And he said, "I don't know what that is, but it sounds pretty cool." Right? And just that willing, and he ended up getting involved. He was part of an experiment that, flew on a satellite, got launched off a rocket and all these, and got into gravitational biology and all these things, and went to grad school. But all it took, it was, the activation energy doesn't have to be so high. Just this willingness, just to ask a question of someone who is around you, and then follow what's interesting. Like his willingness to say, I don't know everything, but that is cool, right? I think sometimes you may get the advice like, follow your passion. I think passion feels so, some of you may have a passion. Others, I don't know that I have one thing that I'm passionate about. That feels like find your passion, like I lost it somewhere, like where is it? I think just like, hey, that's cool, that's interesting. I want to that means something to me, that connects with my heart, and be willing to follow that. And so I think if you ask, you're willing to just come up to the folks that are around you on campus and ask questions like that, you're eventually going to hear some things that you think, wow, that's really cool. And that's a great way, a simple way to just find opportunities. And you just keep pulling on that thread. That opportunity will find another one.
This is a pretty good one. And so I have a question for all of you. We all are motivated, we all have questions, we all have inspirations. But when you wake up in the morning, what keeps you going? What is that one thing that keeps you motivated all the way through? The reason why you're not quitting, the reason why you don't want one thing in the morning that you have.
Are you asking me? Are you asking
All of you. I'm asking all of you.
You can go first.
You want me to go first? For me, I guess, my dogs. Literally get me up in the morning. But no, they're part of my family. I would say my family, and then all of you. Students. It's one of the reasons I love doing things like this, because I'm not in the classroom right now, to be connected with students. I'm motivated by your awesomeness, your goals. And when you're in it for a while, eventually, you guys go off and do amazing things. And when you're in it long enough, suddenly 30 years later, you've got, students all around the world who are now like all completely mature, doing amazing, incredible things. And so it feels like the seeds that, when I'm here with students now, they just multiply and ripple, and that's very awesome. So you guys keep me motivated, get me out of bed. Who wants to go next?
I say very similar. I would say, because I work in local government, and local government is really the place where you can really see the most tangible results of your work. There have been times where previously when I worked at the city, I would be either at the grocery store or on the loop or something, wherever the case may be, and I'd run into somebody that I had worked with when I was there at the city, and be like, remember that one thing that I called your office about, and we were able to either get done or a neighborhood scale project or something? That really made a difference, in my life. And we still use whatever that was. There was one park I'm thinking in particular when I'm talking about this, but we go to that every day. We use the playground every weekend. That kind of thing, that really made my life better. So being able to think of, okay, this is another day to get that win or that feeling, or plant the seed of getting to there again, is really what motivates me. And because it is kind of like a local government, you get to see it. You really do get to see the fruits of your labor. So that motivates me.
Yeah, similar answer. I think it can sound, too sweet or something to say at community, but I think in the world we're living in right now, it's really kind of easy to be too much out there. National, international news, internet, scrolling, all this stuff out there. And when I just focus on my own world, I'm a social scientist, so I think of myself and all of us as a species of animal. So I think about it as our habitat. And what do I need for a healthy habitat? One of the most important things is my community. And so it starts with dogs in the morning. But then I also am so fortunate to have a 2-year-old grandbaby who lives a mile away from me. So an hour and a half with her every morning for work. But just understanding that these simple things like kindness between each other, these interactions with each other, coming to school and solving a problem with your peers, having a conversation with an advisor or teacher. These are the experiences that add up to be your life. This is your life. This is my life, right? So just looking at each other and understanding that we each have the power to create these interactions with each other that add to that experience of our lives that can be so positive.
I would say for me, when I wake up and what motivates me, being part of our student government, we oversee 400 clubs, we oversee programs and services, so campus pantry, campus closet, safe ride, and so I think every day waking up and knowing that we're impacting somebody's life, whether that's getting them back home safe, whether that's taking them to the grocery store, providing some support for those that are struggling. I think our basic needs side has done a phenomenal job of supporting students in those times of need. I also think our clubs, I love going to club meetings and just seeing students create this idea of a club, bring in people, and even you all have started and look at how far it's gone. And so I think for me, seeing that impact, seeing our clubs go to nationals and to doing all these amazing things for me keeps me going to know that these programs really serve students. Myself, I've worked Safe Ride for a month now, and just seeing every day the impact. I get a little emotional seeing the real work, seeing the line for campus pantry, and so feeling down sometimes or not knowing how things are going to go through a day. My days are different every single day, don't know what crisis or thing will happen, but I think knowing every day that students have that community and seeing our clubs and their general meetings and stuff keeps me going, that students have that, and just seeing all the ideas. They have a Star Wars club, you got all these different things, robots, cooking, you name it, and if there's not a club made, you can make it. So I just think seeing all the possibilities students have here at the University of Arizona, overseeing Zona Zoo as well as part of my cabinet, #1 student section in the nation. So I think just overall seeing that and getting to be with students keeps me going. I love to throw it in ASU space a lot. So I think just seeing all the work that we do down here, especially for our Phoenix students, and we chose you today, you made the best decision. So I think just seeing all that helps me get up in the morning and keep going even through the difficult times.
I feel like taking the risk to not only join a club, but going to club meetings, making a club, creating one, is so crucial in the college experience, because with that you know what you like and what you don't like and what you want to pursue in the future. So I totally agree with all your advice here. I feel so motivated. So Matthew, students often see justice as something achieved through big movements, but you built a huge impact through study and local work. How can students find and lead meaningful opportunities for justice here in Tucson? I think I already asked that. So, how can students turn challenges into opportunities for growth and empowerment?
Yeah, oftentimes challenges go so far as to say failures. You can learn more in those than in success. So I would just say having a mindset that every situation you're in is a learning opportunity. As to kind of what everybody else has mentioned up here, meeting people, like every person you ever meet in your life knows something that you don't. So kind of look at it from that perspective, that okay, this is an opportunity. Whether what comes out of it might be what you're hoping for, or maybe not what you're hoping for, there are lessons there, and you just have to be willing to take them, and giving yourself the self-care and grace to be able to, okay, if it didn't go the way you wanted, to be able to, okay, I can take something from this that will make me stronger or more knowledgeable or whatever the case may be, or if it goes well, having the humility to say, okay, that went well, there is, it may not have gone well, but it did, so what factored into that? So, another way that I've heard it phrased is sort of being comfortable being uncomfortable. So putting yourself out there in whatever case it may be, whether you're that one student that like, hey, are you doing anything that's interesting? That first step can unlock a lot of doors. I would just say that it is definitely part of the journey, the ups and downs, but there's positives to take no matter where it is in that journey.
That's pretty cool. That's the policy I go back. Be comfortable in the places that you aren't comfortable, but there are places that will take you far. Wow. So we're open right now to any students asking questions. With a span of 10 minutes, we're going to ask 5 questions. If you guys have any questions, just raise your hand and I'll bring them back to you. Seriously, no questions. I'm pretty sure you all have questions. Just ask a question. It's not that hard.
What has been some of your favorite ways, I guess, throughout each of your individual career journeys and journeys in school that you have, I guess? And what were the ways that you got involved in the community? Kind of your favorite ways, I guess, throughout your journeys?
Favorite ways to get involved in the community. I love what has been said here about it being kind of organic in that you don't have to necessarily sit down with a list and say that one, right? That you just from, I think getting a little out of your comfort zone, as Matt was just saying, that it takes a little, energy to do that, to talk to somebody, to sit with somebody different, to, say what's going on over your campus, what's going on, and then finding something that's interesting to you. There are so many opportunities to get involved, and I think interacting is where I always start. We actually need to interact with each other more, right? It's really easy to not interact with each other these days, and so being willing to, in person, talk to an advisor, talk to a professor, talk to another student, approach something happening on campus, seeing something, going downtown for an event that you wouldn't always go downtown for. Have you ever been to Tucson Meet yourself? Go downtown and do something like that. You will just be opened up to so many things, and you'd be like, I had no idea that was happening, and plug in. As somebody who ran a nonprofit for 17 years, we always want young folks on our board of directors too. So stick your neck out a little bit and go, I don't know how to be on board of directors, but I'm willing to learn, I care about this cause, get involved. There's a lot of learning to be had there, and just a lot of joy in connecting and contributing to the community in different ways. Through my dog walk in the morning, met somebody recently. He was a refugee from Burundi, and now I'm on the board of Iskashita Refugee Network. And it literally came from conversation, 5 a.m. with the dogs on the street. So interact with each other, get to know each other, get a little outside your comfort zone. I guess that would be my advice.
To add to that, I would just say, while you're doing that on campus, while you're here in the attending the university, is also when you find that, also think about where is the nexus of connection to post after you graduate from the U of A. how will that parlay into something that you might find useful in your career or any type of post-graduation too? Because if there is a group or a club or a movement or whatever the case may be that is campus-centric, there's probably a group or organization community-wide. And maybe the club or group already has that connection. But I would also just say, kind of also be a little cognizant of that too, kind of in the back of your head. Be like, okay, this, I learned this about myself, or I met these folks, post graduation. How might this play into that?
I think, having cultural humility to walk into new spaces with humility and really, you can really gain and learn from stepping into, again, with humility, but into cultures. My family, for example, didn't start out, but eventually became, a real multiracial and multi-community family. And that took me into some community and some resources and some networks that I hadn't previously been in, and it brought a real richness to my life, and actually circled back and made me better at my job at the university. And so that may be the evolution of my own family, and being able to reflect and learn and grow with humility just brought a lot to my personal life and my professional life. So that's probably one of my favorite examples of getting involved in community.
Thank you for the question. I would say probably one of my favorite things to this journey, and also just finding community. A lot of people don't know this, but before I ran for president here, I did about 7 months of training across the U.S., Texas, California, D.C., Detroit, and I met so many people through that. And so I feel like for me, getting into college, everybody's probably applying for internships here, looking for volunteer opportunities. And before I got some yeses into some programs, there was a lot of no's. And I feel like for me, that was a learning curve. And so one year I didn't get into a program, and the next year I did. And I'm so glad I got to be part of that program and the people that I met. And so I feel like for me, finding community and that networking piece, you're going to find the right people, whether that is that internship, that job that you're looking for. And so for me, just apply. Even if you get a no, you don't know what can happen after that or what other door opens for you. So I feel like for me, traveling and just meeting all these people, I know even till this day, if they see something on the news from what's going on here, they're texting me. How are you doing? What do you need? Also just the doors it opens for support when you need something. You have that network piece that you can contact them and get that support. So I feel like for me, just meeting people and getting to be part of organizations that have changed my life personally. And I think that program, I didn't know how much I needed that until I got into those programs and met those people. Getting to work with the Congresswoman, past Congresswoman Gabby Giffords has been a dream of mine. And so getting into that program changed my life forever. And so I just feel like never give up, and the right people will walk in the right door for you too.
Hi, thank you guys for all being here and sharing your insights. My question is, when you are putting yourself out there and trying to get to know new community or new culture, how do you do this in the best way without kind of sounding telegraphed or being insensitive? Just how would you say you can integrate yourself into these communities and cultures without sounding really good, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you're afraid to say the wrong things sometimes. And I feel like this is where it goes back to being authentic and being yourself. I feel like as leaders we hold this like we gotta be this perfect person, and I feel like it goes back to just being humans and making those mistakes. And I feel like for myself too, when I see leaders open up about their experiences and struggles, it has this connection to it and realness that isn't fake. And so I feel like when I meet with students and stuff, and just talking to them normally, some will freak out and like fangirl, and I'm just human, I'm just a student just like you. Like when students stop me sometimes for signatures and photos, like that has become really weird in the sense that I'm like scared of what that looks like, because I'm also just a student too, and I want that realist to never leave. And so like even in higher politics, I always tell people, I don't want a big ego, I don't want to be this person you can't relate to, because I know the struggle. So I feel like when you're connecting to people, I think never losing sight of who you are or changing to be something that you're not. I think when you're going into a job, if you are changing you as a person to try to get that role, then it's not meant for you, and you have to really be you to do that. So I feel like just never losing that, losing who you are as a person. The pressure sometimes can really hit in, and so I feel like staying true to your values and who you are, the minute those values are crossed, I feel like that takes some realness back.
There's a saying that when you go into a new space and with new people, focus on being interested, not interesting. I think that's sort of great, simple advice. So if it's you're walking into a new space, really focus on the people, not yourself. Focus on them. And if you're authentically interested in learning, you're much less likely, I think, to trip on your own assumptions, or just to make it not about you but about them. And it's an easy way to then form authentic connections with some humility, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I would take that one step farther. In my career, I run for office, state legislature on the school board. And honestly, one of the best ways to do it, I just go door to door and ask people what's important to you. Like, I want to represent this school district. I think I could do a good job, but I want to hear from you. What do you see? What would you like to see happen or changed, or whatever the case may be? And if you're genuine in that being inquisitive, they'll tell you honestly. So it could be just as simple as that. But yeah, but I think approaching it with true inquisitiveness and really being open to hearing whatever they have to say, whatever that might be, is key.
Yep, ditto all of that. The research that I do, we do a lot of community engaged work, and one of the questions we'll ask sometimes is, if this was, the kindest university ever, how would you know? And, we get the people giving us, evidence of kindness, right? And one that comes up always in every situation is people would be listening to each other. If this was the kindest place, people would be listening to each other. And I love, Jen, what you said about be interested. It's such a kindness to be interested in each other and to be curious about each other and to legitimately listen. And that communicates that, what I talked about earlier, that sort of safety. Like when we listen to each other, we can let down our vigilance of, is this person just going to talk over me, or are they just going to take over? Or, here's that person coming into our group and they're going to think they know each other, know everything about it, and they're going to tell us what to do. But instead you come in and you're humble and you listen and you're curious. That's a completely different thing. I think that's when you learn, that's when you connect, and that's when you're the opportunities to engage with a community that you may not have even thought about just open right up. That's an experience I had in my former career working in the deaf community. I ended up learning ASL and learning about the deaf community and being very, very engaged, all from this initial sort of learning and curiosity and wanting to be a good ally, supportive member of the community.
constantly, whether it's internships, volunteer, community service. Do you have any advice on how to kind of break that down so that it doesn't seem as overwhelming? Like, for example, within your own fields, like if you were looking for an opportunity, where would you start versus just putting in, a single hot word and seeing what comes up?
Okay, yeah. I think, having a conversation, there's a few places it's always great to start, right? There's always just so many front doors in the student success district, right? That's a great place to stop in, go to SOS if you're not sure where to start. Go to any of those places in there. And your academic advisor, and be reflecting and having that communication about what it is you're looking for and what it is you want. So that way you don't have to know the organization chart of the whole university and where everything is. But by understanding what it is you're looking for and being able to communicate that, whether it's career relevant experiences, whether it's undergraduate research and you don't know where to start, then if you go to those front doors, whether it's in the student success district or your advisor, they'll be able to, let's get you to the undergrad research office and help get you, and they can walk you through getting paired with a research experience or something like that. So that would be my first advice as a great place to start.
I would say, especially if you're undecided, I think when you're coming to college, some people know their craft. So if you're going into medical school, you know that they're also looking at what you do on the outside. Volunteer service, that's what they're interested in, seeing how you're contributing to the community. And I think in any job that does highlight who you are as a person. So I would say when you're coming here to the university and you're looking for opportunities, I think one, starting with a major, like you mentioned, academic advisors and stuff, they're here to support your pathway. And so I think having that person that you can go to on campus guide you is really important. I also think your friends, like looking at what opportunities are there, most likely your friends are also willing to volunteer with you on Saturday at the food bank. And so I think doing it as a group makes it easier too to have that support. But I would say breaking it up. I know for me, I spent a lot of my sophomore year just doing volunteering and programs, and that for me was really opening to other opportunities. So I would say when breaking that down is starting with your major, and if you're unsure, joining a club, the gen ed courses that you take, that really leads to a pathway as well. But I think for sure for internships, don't give up, apply to everything and anything you can until you get that yes and find that place, because then that leads to the next thing. But I think as a university, we do offer a lot of things to our UA cares, so donating blood or volunteering for cleanups and stuff. That 1 p.m. to that Instagram could lead to something totally different and a whole group of friendships and volunteering. So ask me questions, don't be afraid to ask questions on how to do that.
I'm going to say for my department, we post them, or we send the information to the College of Public Health, and now we're going to be sending them to the SBS as well. But I would say what we just said, you just ask, whether it's your a friend, a classmate, what are the resources that has been mentioned before, but also just if there's something that you think is interesting, kind of alluding to what the story you told at the beginning, just ask, like, what do you have going on? Like, and then if you have especially if you take the time to at least try to make a connection or have some sort of shared experience, use that. So, like, for example, if you at the Pima County Health Department, if you're interested in an internship, now that you've met somebody who works there, just find me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I was at that podcast session in November, and you were asking about internships. What do you have going on? It can be as simple as that. So don't feel like limiting yourself in any way, because the other way I like to say it is don't tell yourself no. Make somebody else tell you that. And like I said, if you take that and go forward, and someone says, "Yeah, we don't have everything right now, but maybe in the future," then you're back where you started. So just keep moving forward.
interactions again. Think about this university as your habitat. So you spend a lot of your life here and get to know the people. Get to know your people, your professors. If you're in a smaller major especially, you can actually get to know people. There's a lot of value in that when professors know you, then they can see an opportunity and think, oh, one of our students is really interested in that kind of thing. That's how things happen through relationships. We actually have to make relationships. So as much as you can, I'd say just go to office hours. Do you know how many professors sit with students not coming to their office hours? Professors who are like world renowned in their field, go and just pick their brain, just get to know them a little bit. That takes a little bit of, again, getting out of your comfort zone. You might say, I don't know what to say. Just go in and say, I'm curious about how you ended up here, or get them talking, be interested in them, get them talking about their path. In those relationships come other opportunities because you will now be in their head. They'll get to know you. And they'll think of you more, and things will come out through those connections.
Thank you so much, everyone who asked the question. As we close today, we want to thank our panelists for sharing their experiences and reminding us that leadership is not just a job, it's a purpose and service. And to all students here today, remember that empowerment begins with small, intentional steps. You have the ability to lead, to advocate, and to build more than just a compassionate community right here at the U of A. Thank you all for being here once again. Thank you, UAC team, Joshua Anderson, Rebecca Zella, Felista, Katrina Batak, Ashley,